And we are going to go to the first group poll. Okay, sorry. So AI. So with the recent attention on artificial intelligence and chat GPT, what does your crystal ball tell you as it relates to real estate? Any thoughts?
Can I go?
Oh, Rick wants to go first.
Can I go, teacher?
This was his question, so I guess he'd like to add to it first.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have played with Bard or with Chat GPT, but before the call, I decided to play with it a little bit more than I have already. And so I asked Bard, that's the Google artificial intelligence.
Bard and Chat GPT and these different programs that are coming on real quick. Maybe not everybody knows them. I don't know.
So Bard and Chat GPT, you've seen them in the news. And please add to this, because I only read 2 sentences and then my attention just goes out. I don't have good attention to read into it, but it's basically the latest controversy from the tech sector that is involving artificial intelligence to provide input to your inputs. Say it that way.
What is Bard, babe?
It's just a nickname. It's just like whose iPhones.
So I would say this. Okay, let me go with what I'm trying to say. Bard is actually Google's form of AI, where Chat GPT is a private sector, right? Not really a known name.
Right.
Okay. Because Chat GPT was kind of the first artificial intelligence, and now others are jumping on board. Google has Bard, and has Microsoft or anybody else come out with another one?
I don't know.
Anybody else know? Not sure. Okay, so that's what it is. So now get to your question, like how does it relate to real estate?
Well, so what I did was I put in Bard. You go to Bard by going to bard.google.com in case you guys want to play with this at home and make it a little game at the dinner table. And so I did this, and I gave the instructions I gave to Bard was to write a poem about real estate investing. And this is what it came back with. I'd like to read it to you only because it took seconds for it to write this poem. And I'm very impressed. So here it goes. Ode to real estate. Oh, real estate, how I love thee so. With your brick and mortar and land to grow, you provide shelter for young and old, and a place to call home where you can hold their family close and never feel alone. For you are more than just bricks and mortar. You are an investment, a source of income, a way to build wealth, secure my future, a way to pass down to my children and theirs. Oh, real estate, how I love thee so. You are the key to my financial freedom. You are the path to a better life for me and for those I love. So please let me be a part of your world, a part of your story, a part of history and your future too. For instance, we can build something great, something that will last generations to come. And that was it. And so. Interesting, right? I mean, seconds. I asked him to do a poem. I'm sure there's other things, what are the, you can ask Bard to refine it, but that was to me an example of the power of this, good or bad. So that leads into the question for discussion tonight is, what do you guys think?
Well, how can it relate it to real estate? How can it be used in real estate?
That's a question.
So actually I've been playing around with Chat GPT. I'm an engineer, so I'm a nerd. I love all that stuff. But I had it actually provide me a script for a cold call for seller financing.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And just like you, right, within seconds, it popped out something that actually made sense and took the guesswork out of having to think of it or having to write something down beforehand. I mean, within 10 seconds, it had like a page-long script.
Right.
And then
it makes you sound super intelligent,
And then you can refine it. You can say, okay, now I want to tell them about the tax advantages. And it refines it. So every subsequent question, at least within Chat GPT, it'll take what you already have and build off of it.
Totally. Oh,
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's a good use of this. You know, when you're, especially when you're, you know, just trying to figure out what to say or what the priorities are.
And
That's awesome.
I've heard real estate agents are using it for their descriptions on Zillow or wherever else they're
That is a
posting.
very good tool for it, yes. Because sometimes it's hard to come up with those.
To make it fun and not repetitive and boring. Yeah, descriptions.
Well, I think what you could also do, and because I think you can give it attachments. So you can actually probably upload a previous listing or something, so it has all of the information about the house, and then it might create something. I don't know.
Chat GPT seems to be the one with the most steam, and there's actually I don't know if they've solidified it yet, but Rick, you might be familiar with Mathematica.
I've
I'm
heard of
not.
So it's you're basically going to give Chat GPT the ability to also do math if they partner, if that actually goes through. So right now it's just a lot of speech to speech, and it's learning how to talk to people. But now they're talking about partnering with all of these
that.
algorithm developers for math.
Or something in second. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Wow, powerful.
Yeah.
I just think of all the problems that I had in college and calculus. And well, if I would have had this tool, I would have been able to probably get a better grade than the D.
That's actually a big problem they're having in the colleges now, because people are turning in essay questions using Chat GPT, and it can fool about 75% of like the Turnitin or
Right.
any of those any of those tools.
I could see that.
Teachers try
Totally.
to use.
So,
I'm wondering.
oh, go ahead. I was just going to
Well,
say, as those
mind.
people that are joining, what we're doing is we're talking about the latest news of how Chat GPT or AI Bard relates to real estate and how it can be used. So if you want to add anything, that would be great.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, no, my thing with as I get older and Anna has to help guide me to stay positive, I think of the negatives, and I question everything from will this eliminate, and please, I hope there's more positive people than me, so I want to hear your positives. But the concern I have is that some jobs will be eliminated. When jobs get eliminated, those are my tenants. And then my tenants can't afford to pay the rent. And then I know I might be reaching, but I'm just saying.
Other jobs that are created though.
I don't know what they are though yet. And so I haven't been able to connect the dots. So.
But a lot of the service sectors. So the thing is, Chat GPT, I don't think that they could, like tenants in a sense, middle income, things like that. I don't think that it could replace waitresses. It's not going to replace lawn care people. It's not going to replace contractors. It's not going to replace those type of people. You know, I think, you know, what Cassie was saying, I think it definitely has an impact on the educational community. You know, I was reading a comment from one teacher that was actually saying, it was very interesting, and I don't remember all of it, but she was actually saying that it's going to make teachers teach again, because she actually in her class had them create an essay, but it had certain thought-provoking ideas that needed to be expressed to get a good grade or something like that or whatever. So it actually took more time to input the thoughts and ideas that the person wanted to portray in the essay to the Chat GPT for it to spit it out to get the grade that was needed. 3 hours versus 1 hour is what this teacher was saying. And in the process, the person still learned. So she was saying that she doesn't think that if teachers are teaching in a way to use it, she doesn't think that it's going to be an issue, but it could actually enhance learning. So that's the thing.
I'd love to hear other people's opinion.
Yes, any other thoughts? Anybody else? Terrence, Julie, Jessica, Therese, anybody else?
I think it's amazing. I think it's going to propel us to that next level. Of course, it's a little unknown yet, And there's downsides to all progress, but I think it's starting to finally happen, what I kind of perceived as the way we would have been many years ago. So I think it's just finally people are able to kind of accept that that's something that we can create, that's something that we can do, and that's something that can help us, not hurt us.
Gotcha. I kind of agree. But I think
You,
progress
you
has to
guys are
happen.
great optimists. I want to surround myself with you guys.
All right, let's go on to the next one while we get others to join too. Then a couple more minutes, we'll just start into introductions. So we've got other headline news. The Consumer Price Index annual inflation rate dropped for the 9th consecutive month in March, reaching its lowest level since May of 2021. Newly released minutes from the Fed's last meeting indicated officials appear on track to raise policy rates one more time in May, and wholesale inflation also fell in March, hitting its lowest annual level since January, showing slowing inflation can be good for rates. So if a property cash flows, does high interest rate and inflation really matter? Thoughts? There's no wrong answer. It's just, these are just discussion thoughts.
I think it depends on your strategy.
Say
Okay,
more.
well, why do you say that?
Well, no, because nobody has a crystal ball.
Correct.
And who knows, they may raise rates well after that too. They might just keep going. It doesn't make sense to me because that's not what's really controlling it. But if they do, and you're, I don't know, fix and flipper or working on a burr, it's going to start to cut into your margins when you have to go refinance.
Yeah, that's where it does hurt things. But if you're in for the longer haul, it's not affecting too much. But yes, on current purchases and things, it definitely can have an impact.
Yeah,
Any
that's a
other
good
thoughts?
point. Very good point.
Did you have a thought, Rick? Besides that?
You know, it's so funny, you know, until Josh said what he said, I was just like, you know, no, but I look through my lens, right? So my lens is buy and hold. And so if it cash flows and it achieves my goal, I get concerned. I do look at the sales price. I do look at the interest rate. I do look at the economy and what inflation is doing, but it's really not, for me, the key variable that I'm focused on. Because at the end of the day, what I have learned over the years that for us, because we buy and hold, we're in it for the long haul, and the value of our entire portfolio, it's nice to look at it and say, yeah, that makes you feel good. Oh yeah, it's worth that amount, but it's just a paper game. It's not much we can do with unless we refinance it. There's not much we can do with it. But what I really care about is the cash flow. And so that's where I put my emphasis on when I'm looking at buying something. And because I'm looking at it the long haul, you know, whether it's okay if I've lost value in my property, so long as I'm cash flowing, I guess is the way I'm looking at it. And it's because I'm holding it on to for a very long period of time that hopefully my heirs will appreciate the fact that it's increased. So that's my opinion.
Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, I guess not.
Hello.
Okay.
I think that I think it really depends on what market you're in and who your renter base in that market is. If, for example, if maybe your renter base, like if their wages are not increasing to be able to accommodate a higher rent, and there's nothing being done in that locality to accommodate the people that can pay the higher rents to move in, then you're going to be, you know, you might be messed up if your calculating future potential cash flow. Versus an area where maybe the locality is doing improvements, building parks, better schools, that you can get a higher income renter to pay a higher rent. So I think a lot of that comes into play too. And I just wanted to add that in.
I think it's a good point. Definitely. Definitely.
Is that going into the class of property? Like, let's say a class A, class B, class C, class D.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. Some of our rentals would be the Class C area, and the localities aren't necessarily doing anything. They're not building new like park and rec things, they're not building new things, and if other landlords aren't also improving properties, then you're paying a higher price, but you're going to only be able to get the same rent. Then you can't really bank on having future increased rents to fix that cash flow problem. And especially if the wages of that particular tenant pool are not going up in that area. That's what I think anyways.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go ahead and start with introductions. So when we do the introductions, if you could introduce yourself and then also say like what your in real estate niche is, what you focus on. If you've made any offers or sent any mailers, if you read something real estate relevant that you'd like to share, any podcasts or classes that you've attended, or what you might have learned in the last 30 days, or what you're using to propel you forward. So any of those items, if Josh, if you wouldn't mind going first, that'd be great. You're kind of in my Brady Bunch corner, so. You gotta unmute.
Yeah, I was having trouble there. I'm Josh. Right now, my wife and I have 2 rentals in central New York. Both we're looking at for the long term. One, the renters have been in there for almost 2 years now, and the second, we have a group of college students in, paying by the room. And then we're looking to possibly pivot and get into a little bit of the short-term rental space coming up here. So we've been going through the motions of getting pre-qualified and talking to a couple of realtors in Florida. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Great, welcome. Can I have a follow-up question, because you just mentioned something about renting the college students. Did you furnish the home, or did you rent it out by the room unfurnished, everything unfurnished?
We furnished.
Okay.
We actually kind of timed it perfectly so that we hit the Amazon Prime Day sale. So we got a bunch of stuff on discount and just had mattresses and whatever ordered straight to the house.
Very
cool.
Basically, it ended up being like 2 weeks after closing.
Awesome.
That's where we're at, about the 2-week markers. So, well, a little bit longer than that, but we got the Zenus and we do sleep numbers for the short-term rentals and things, but we also do Zenus for the alternate beds. But what mattress did you get?
I have no clue offhand.
No worries. Julie, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I just thought that was really good turnaround time.
Yes, that is definitely. How big was it? Just 1 unit, but like 3 bedrooms or?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms, gotcha.
Yeah, four bedrooms. So the mortgage on that one, I got it. Mortgage, taxes, and insurance is like $950, and we rent it out for $2,000.
Wow, that's in New York, or where's that at?
Yeah, in the Finger Lakes region.
Very cool.
That is so awesome.
Excellent. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so I have more questions, only because my back is sore and I'm an older man, Josh. You live in Virginia, correct? And your family is up in New York. So I have been to IKEA And my wife loves their furniture, but also loves everything from Amazon that has 1,000 parts that I have to assemble. So I'm curious, did you do a TaskRabbit, or did you make a special trip up to upstate New York to assemble furniture? How did you do that?
Yeah, so for that one, my property manager also happens to be my my mother-in-law and father-in-law who recently retired. So we pay them, right? We pay them about 10% of the rents that we collect in New York, and they go do all that stuff.
Oh my gosh,
Kinda when
it's
they
so
can.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
amazing, because it's hard work putting all that stuff together.
This is a very hard one.
Yeah,
I'm going through it right now.
yeah, or
My
else
back is
we
killing
would
me.
have done TaskRabbit.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Awesome. I'm a cheap son of a gun too, so.
Hey, so Jacques, what are you working on, and what's moving your business forward?
Hey guys, sorry, we're also eating dinner over here. We joined late. So we usually meet you guys in the Fredericksburg REIA meeting. Sorry, I'm gonna pass off the toddler now. Right now, we're actually we're kind of a little bit nervous because we're starting the refinance process on a triplex that we bought roughly about 6 months ago, and then renovated a good chunk of it. So we're nervous about rates because we're now just starting to look at that. So that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, so we have 4 properties, 6 stores, because one of them is a triplex, and then one of them is short-term rental that we use as a kind of like on Airbnb. Basically, it's a beach house in North Myrtle Beach. So right now, I think our goal for this year is just to stabilize, though, because I think we grew too quickly. So we're just trying to get everything back in order as best we can.
Awesome. Awesome. It was nice meeting you at that meeting.
Yeah, it was so good to see you guys too. I'm glad we could hop on, even though we were a little bit late.
Oh, totally fine.
Don't worry about it. No, we actually will have more people probably jumping in too. So all good, all good. And I have been in touch with the speaker. He's at his son's baseball game, but we'll be jumping on. So
Nice.
all good. So I have been speaking to him. So awesome. Well, good to see you guys, definitely. So
And good luck on your refinance.
oh yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we're a little bit nervous because our rate right now is, I think, 4.5. And so we're looking at, especially because it'll be a cash out. So because we're trying to burr it and then just recycle the money.
Right.
So right now we're looking at almost 7. And I'm just like,
Right.
oh, it's gonna
Right.
hurt.
Well,
Right.
as long as it's still cash flow, right?
Yeah, and it should cash flow really, really well. So it just is really painful to see all of that.
I understand. We had the same thing on the property we're working on now, right? That's gonna be 3 short-term rentals. So we had the same thing, but you've got to look at the fact where it's a rental property, so it's actually a tax deduction,
Yeah.
so it all works out, and it's, if you're gonna keep it for a while, that's it. So
Yeah, I think over the long run, it'll definitely pay itself off fourfold. And we're getting rid of because we had done an FHA conventional to get into it because we live in it for a year. So we'll drop about $350 worth of PMI. So that's going to help dramatically offset the interest rate. So we'll see. We'll see.
Awesome.
Fingers crossed.
sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Terrence, you can let us know what you're up to.
Making money.
Terrence, are you able to unmute?
Terrence Pollard, you're called to the principal's office.
All right. Well, maybe I'll go on to Julie. Julie, can you introduce yourself?
Julie Tealson. This is my first one of you guys' meetings. I'm excited to see what goes on. And I'm just really new to real estate as well. So just trying to find my niche. Haven't really yet. But everybody's input always can steer you one way or the other until you find exactly what you're looking for.
Very
Welcome.
All
Thank
right, welcome, welcome.
Yeah,
And,
so good to have you.
Jessica Fonseca?
Yes, ma'am. So, I've been in, so I'm in the flipping side of real estate, but also at the same time, I currently have 3 rental properties. Looking for another one. It's just a market here in South Florida has been, I mean, as we all know, it's been a pretty hot market. Even for rent too. Actually, Miami actually beats New York. Surprisingly enough, I read an article as top as in the rental industry. And so yeah, it's just the market down here is very competitive, and even amongst each other, investors, there's that little bit of overbidding a bit I'm seeing down here too.
Gotcha. So you're in what part?
In Miami.
Gotcha. So we
Mhm.
actually just purchased a triplex in Fort Lauderdale. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
and we-
Nice. Awesome.
yeah, so we have some properties on the Gulf side, and we just purchased this one a couple weeks ago. And so we are here right now getting it ready. So, and then we also will be headed back to Virginia after that. So all good.
Nice. Awesome. And did you, I know with this whole rain last couple of days that we've had, have
Oh,
you guys,
gosh.
did you guys, hopefully not, but were you guys, did that impact?
No, it didn't impact us. I mean, thankfully there was no flooding, so we were fine. We weren't here at the time. We were actually away, but we had somebody checking on the house, and they sent us like, okay, this is where the water line was and things like that. So we were good. So thankfully that was good.
Good. Thankfully. Awesome.
Yeah, but, so did Miami get hit at all with that?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Did you get affected with that or no?
No, not down here. I mean, it did rain a lot, but I mainly in Fort Lauderdale, Hollandale, Dania Beach, mainly all of that area.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
thankfully we did not have any flooding. So that's good.
Good. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Therese, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My husband and I are buy and hold, and we have properties in Chicago area and then one here in Stafford. And recently what I've been doing is really just moving the properties onto Turbo Tenant, which is an online platform for collecting rent, maintenance requests, and I feel like it'll just streamline. Normally, the ones in Chicago area, we collect cash, rent in cash, and I just would rather just have it electronic. So that's what I've been focusing on recently.
Awesome. I have to respond to someone real quick with the link. Rick, do you want to share your screen, or are you wanting me to share mine?
Let's see here. I don't have it open.
I can do it.
I don't have that
I
folder
just
open.
said that, so I can do it now.
You got the 2 screens going, right?
I'm going. Okay. So this is Fred REIA. Does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So this is for Virginia and Florida. We have investors in both places, since I am actually licensed in both places as a broker, and we have properties in both places. So we did go over the introductions. Now we're going to go over needs and wants. If anyone does have any property pitches, statistics, and then we have our featured speaker, which is Casey. We do have the disclaimer. So any topics discussed here are for general real estate and educational purposes only. This is not considered investment advice. Real estate is risky, and so each transaction is individual. Always make sure to get any expert advice that you're needed, an attorney, accountant, investment professional, anybody else that's needed in that space. We are the leaders. So my name is Anna Jenkins, and we've been doing this for about, what, 5 years now, right? So I started investing in properties in my 20s, which was probably about 20 years ago, and or longer, well, about 20 years ago. And I had a duplex while I was in the military that I turned into a triplex. So I started house hacking before it was a thing. And that is what we do now. So we started really getting into investing about 10 years ago. And now we do short, mid, and long-term rentals. We have, started out with house hacking, where we would live in one part of the house and rent out the other, like a basement or something. We've also rented out by the room. Now we also have short-term vacation rentals in Florida too. So we've also lent money. We own our own real estate brokerage in Virginia that does sales and property management. And anything else you'd like to add, Rick?
Yeah, we probably manage over 100 properties in Virginia, and we, since Anna's licensed, we self-manage our short-term rentals. Anna manages those from afar. We've got a great team in place, since we're about 2.5 hours away from our Gulf Coast properties, and now we've gotten a foothold on the East Coast in the Atlantic side. So that's kind of a new adventure for us, but we're looking forward to going back to Virginia. You know, we kind of split our time between the two areas, because you know, we've got, when we have a new purchase like this, you know, it's all hands on deck to, you know, build all that furniture. I haven't been successful like Josh to get my relatives to build the furniture. Plus I'm cheap. And so, but yeah, so that's what we're doing. And
Lucky.
yeah, very lucky. But you have stumbled upon one of our recipes for success. Like Anna said, we do short, midterm, and that is one of our recipes where we actually rent out by the room in Virginia to long-term tenants, at least 6 months, and then generally a year. And so the cash flow numbers are very well, and we do very well for us, and we actually also furnish them. We find it, furnishing provides a better product. So you're not getting, you know, somebody's, let's just say, beat up old furniture into your nice house. And if you can keep it nice, which we have been doing, we actually pay for house cleaning every 2 weeks. It's part of our utility fee that the tenant pays, so that we have a housekeeper that comes in every 2 weeks that cleans the common areas. They don't clean individual bedrooms. And so again, it's just another nice step that we've done to upgrade our properties and to get that cash flow as high as possible. So I'm looking forward to hearing Casey's presentation tonight, because, you know, that's what we've been focused on, is looking at ways that we can do highest and best use and get the most money out of our properties. And it's been fun being able to experiment like that, you know, just seeing which one can do better for us. So anyway, I've rambled on enough, but I'm looking forward to hearing Casey. Thank you.
All right, we're also a member of National REIA. So if you would like to become a member also, then it is $70 per year. That's probably one of the lowest, because we don't use it as a profit center. We just pay the membership. So you do get access to all of their benefits, plus their online education, and also the recordings of all the meetings. So you have access to that too. So if you're interested in that, you can actually contact Rick. Rick's phone number should be up there, because he's the one that does the payments over Stripe. And we'll make that happen. Get you to be a member. Okay, so tonight we do have Casey Brown, how to be a cash flow pro. Next month, we have Rick Thompson talking about private lending as a whole. And then Rich Lennon is going to follow up the next month with the pitfalls of it and how to avoid the mistakes, like things that have happened with Suzanne and with myself, things like that. And then people had asked for land information about buying and investing in land. So we will have Brent Bowers in July talking, he's from the Land Sharks. So we have that coming up. And we did introductions. So does anyone have any, I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. Does anyone have any needs or wants? Any needs or wants? None? Okay. What about, I know that, I actually sent out a property by email from one of the investors this past week. Does anyone else have a property pitch that they would like to pitch?
Yeah, that was a good one. The one that you had sent out on Main Street, that was a good one. And then, of course, that one, the person that had in Charlottesville. We're always looking to help people.
Actually, is just closing tomorrow. We finally got, there was some confusion in that because that property was a great deal. That was a great deal. Actually, if we weren't enveloped in this property in Fort Lauderdale, we would have bought that one. But so that was definitely a great deal. We had multiple offers on that, and it cash flowed immensely even at the price it went for. So, but it was from another investor that I had sold 2 years ago, and he had passed. And so when you have someone that has actually passed, it makes it a lot harder through dealing with executors and things. That he actually had that in an LLC where the other member had also passed, and so the LLC was defunct, but come to find out that they did it through their IRA. So that made an even bigger problem because the IRA company that they had gone through had actually closed, and the IRA company that bought that one had then we were just having trouble with getting a hold of them. That's the thing. So it was a very interesting deal, but it's finally closing tomorrow. So that's a good one. Anyone else have anything to property pitches or anything learning from any other properties? No?
I'm sorry, I don't have a property
Yes,
pitch
go
at the
ahead.
moment. Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. No, I said I was going back to initial question, any wants, I'm always looking, so if there's any property out there that anyone has, please, feel free, let me know. But no, I don't have a current property pitch at the moment.
No worries. So what I do also is as people send me properties, they'll email it to me to send it out to the group. So definitely if you're not on our email list, which if you're on here, you're likely on the email list because we're no longer sending out the link through Meetup because we're getting hacked. So are you on the email list, Jessica?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so I'll put my email in the chat, and if you send me an email or a text, then go ahead. I'll go ahead and add you to the list, and then when properties come up, you can either email me if you have one, or I email it out to everyone when another investor has it. So
Yeah, maybe we can send her the lead that came in for Charlottesville if she's interested.
she's in Florida, though.
Oh, she's in Florida. Oh, I'm sorry. Got it.
Yep.
Yes.
So we have to keep it for both. But that one was a lead from Virginia. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Does anyone else have anything? All right, I just was filling that out, so. Okay, there's my email address and my phone number, so you can either email me your info or give me a call or text, and I will make sure that I get you added to the group. All right, so next thing are the statistics. So I am gonna go ahead and share my screen again so that Rick can go over that.
Oh, they were very interesting and revealing.
Okay, go for it.
So this is the tale of two cities. I think I've said that before. So you have Fredericksburg, Virginia. These are the last month's numbers, March of 2023. They typically come out mid of the following month. And it kind of it compares and contrasts what's happening with new listings, pendings, days on markets, closed sales. And what you'll see in Virginia is quite a contrast to what you're seeing in Florida. Now, I specifically, you can't do, just like you can't do just Fredericksburg. I mean, because, Virginia is a big area. So, we're not doing Northern Virginia in terms of, further north. We're not doing Richmond. We're not doing Virginia Beach. Same goes with Florida. I'm not, getting into Miami. I'm not getting into Broward County. I'm not going into Jacksonville or in the Panhandle. This is just one area that we were able to get data from. And you can see kind of the contrast of what the market is doing. So look, if you will, at the Fredericksburg, Virginia, the top column. And this is, again, is sourced as of April 6th for Fredericksburg and April 10th for Florida. So you'll see that the number of new listings came in at 602. And what I like to point out, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around, probably not, but you'll see at the very bottom where it says 5-year MAR average, which stands for March average, 5-year March average of 911. So on average, for the last 5 years, we've been getting 911 new listings, and we're at 602. If you compare that to what it was in February, we had a huge increase. So the spring selling season or summer selling season kind of kicked off early here for comparing it to February. It came up at 53% increase. But if you compare it to last year, our number of listings is significantly down 36%. So, and if you compare it to the 5-year average, it's still down almost 33%, almost a third down. So we don't have a lot of listings. And that is also somewhat true if you look, but not as dramatic, in the Florida market, particularly in the Gulf Coast area, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, North Port, which is the Charlotte County, Sarasota County, that area. And you'll see that listings are still down on the 5-year average, but not as significant, And if you compare them to February, they were down about 4%. And if you compare them to a year ago in March, they were down 10%. So less dramatic in Florida, more pronounced in Virginia as to what the market's going on there, the two different markets. There's much more of a seasonal, I would say, or let me just say it this way. There's a different seasonal in Virginia than there is in Florida. Because you have people in Virginia that they tie things around schools, seasons. We have a summer selling season that, you'll see the sales increase in the summer, whereas it's slightly different season for Florida. And you'll see that in the next chart. Going on to the next area, new pendings. New pendings was also up in compared to February of 2023, but if you look at the 5-year average, we were down almost 250 pending contracts. And if you're comparing it to March of 2022, last year, a year ago, still significantly down, 36%. When you look at Florida market, not as a dramatic shift. Their pendings were also down, but again, I think it's about a number of inventory. It's tied to the same. If you have less homes to sell, then you're going to have less new pendings, less under contract. Pendings are what is under contract. And then finally, the last corner on the right-hand side where it says closed sales, you'll see that the 5-year average in Virginia is 571. We closed for the month of March 452. It was a significant jump over February of 2023, but still down compared to March 2022 of 30%. And then if you compare that to Florida, they had a huge number of closed sales in February, but this is their sweet spot I think for their seasonal, what we'll see on the next chart, but it was still down compared to a year ago, and still compared to the 5-year average, almost down about 100 closed sales, comparatively speaking. Next, anybody have any questions? I go to the next slide. All right, next slide, Anna. All right, so this is the seasonal I was telling you about. You can kind of see where the blue, where it says closed sales, you can see the seasonal going up and down. It's like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. And our seasonal is strongest in May, June, July. May, June, July. It's typically stronger during that time frame. Whereas if you look at Florida, their seasonal is also a little bit May, June, July, but it typically starts 2 months earlier. You know, it's that March, April, February, March, April, February, March, April. That's when their seasonal starts to get stronger. So it's 2 to 3 months ahead of the schedule. And if you look at the average selling price, Virginia at 420, where the 5-year average is 359, our sales prices have maintained very strong in Virginia. And if you compare it to February, it's flat. And if you compare it from a year ago, it's up 3%. So when you read the headlines, it's really challenging, because you read some of these headlines about, prices are crashing or prices are falling, and I'm not seeing it, or at least not as dramatic as the headlines make us appear to see. But look how hot Florida is in terms of the median sold price. It's up almost 80,000 compared to the 5-year average, and compared to February of last year. Again, the smaller base of numbers, but almost up about $45,000 compared to last month, and about $20,000 compared to last year. So, and it's flat if you look at 2023 to 2022, 330,000 compared to 330,000. So year to date, it's flat, but month to month, you can see some of the variations. Next slide. All right, so this is another interesting statistic, because it kind of ties into, we talked about new listings. Well, then they have this, chart called active listings. So active listings looks at the total number of listings on the market at a given time for a given month. And so in Virginia, active listings total 693. There's more active listings in Florida at 1179. If you look at the average number of listings in March of 2022, we're significantly higher, almost 130,000 more active listings on the market. But if you compare it to the 5-year average, we're still down about 200,000. 200 listings, not 200,000, 200 listings. Comparing that to Florida, we're close to the moving active average of 1093 for the 5 years at 1179. So that's not too far off. But if you compare it to March of 2022, 349, last year we only had 349 active listings, and this year we have 1179. So it's quite a big dramatic difference from a year ago. If you remember how competitive that market was. Remember, we had the low interest rates, the threat of higher interest rates, but more, and it was bidding wars. And so it's changed quite a bit in terms of the market in Florida. Now, days on market, this indicates, DOM, days on market, indicates how long the property took to get under contract. So you'll see that in Fredericksburg, we're averaging 37, and the 5-year average is at 33. And then you look at Florida, the days on market is 42, and the 5-year average has been 49. So not a lot of shifting there. And then the last slide talks about the average sold to OLP ratio. OLP stands for original list price. So you'll see how sticky the prices have been in Virginia. If somebody, I'm just using easy numbers just to explain, if somebody listed a house for $100,000, then they're getting $989, $98,000 for their home if they listed it at 100. So they're only taking a haircut of about $1,100 to get that sold price. But if you compare it to Florida, that same
By the
home,
way, you can't get a house for $100,000.
no, you can't. I'm just trying to do easy math for me.
In case anybody was curious.
But if you compare it to Florida, a $100,000 home, the sellers are taking a haircut of approximately, $6,100. So it just gives you some baseline of where there's room to negotiate in Florida, as it appears, whereas in Virginia there's less room. The sellers are getting their price that they're wanting to. So, all right. So any questions on that statistics for March of 2023? All right.
So now we're going to have our guest speaker, and he's on the call, Casey Brown. There he is. I see him. He is actually the creator of the CashFlow Pro podcast, where it helps investors find an approach to real estate investing. And I'm sure he's going to tell us a little bit about himself also, but he has spent years moving and adjusting the pieces in an effort to learn and lay the foundation to build a structure that focuses on helping investors. And he is at his son's baseball game. So how is your son doing?
That's awesome.
He is actually, I can't see the scoreboard right now because where I'm sitting, but anyway. So they're doing good though. They're having a good game so far. So we've had a lot of rain here. It seems like every time we have a baseball game, it would rain. So we're having makeups and stuff going on. Otherwise I'd be sitting in my office. So this is my office for the night. So
Awesome.
Well, we're lucky
Welcome.
to have you, definitely. Do you need
Well,
to
thank you.
share your screen or anything?
Well, I don't really have a screen to share, to be quite honest. I wanted to, and I've noticed over the years that I've been doing real estate and investor, especially talking to investors, which has always been a part of my business, even up until I started in on the cash flow and trying to figure my way through it. But real estate is the epitome of a moving target, right? I don't care if it's commercial real estate, if it's multifamily or any facet of commercial real estate or residential real estate. It's a moving target. We wake up every day, and it's just, as you can tell by those slides that he just got done going through, it's always something different, right?
Fluid, very fluid.
We're either a lot of people, I think this cycle around, are more have educated themselves on just what the lever of the Fed and the control of the interest rate really does to things, right? Or maybe it's just me, because this is my first cycle on the debt. Started in 07. So, right. So I guess I had never seen it before the big nosedive that it took. And so seeing this whole cycle come full cycle has really been, I don't know, kind of sobering, I guess, really. And watching the interest rates do what they've done. And believe it or not, I mean, interest rates aren't terrible right now. They're just not as good as they were, right? And when you get into people's back pockets, whether it be residential real estate or commercial real estate, everybody loses their mind, right? And the sellers, can you all still hear me? I'm sorry. I don't know that I've ever really used.
can hear
Okay.
you.
I'm sorry. Okay, good.
Yeah, I have myself muted and such, but we can definitely hear you.
We hear you.
Gotcha. Okay. So, when we start looking and we start valuing, I'm gonna kind of transition now and start talking a little bit about more along the multifamily and the cash flow and the things that we focus on when it comes to cash flow. And unfortunately, right now, we're almost at a point where sellers are too hard-headed. Now, specifically multifamily sellers are becoming too hard-headed. They're too, sellers want 2 months ago prices, buyers want today's prices, right? And so there's a lot of runway between the two, and trying to bring them together is the brokers and the people that either do deals or don't eat, right? So when we start looking at the interest rates and we start looking at the what it's done to the value of commercial property, don't be afraid to make lower offers right now, right? Especially on commercial properties. And I'm sorry, Anna, I was trying to get a little definition of our audience earlier. And I don't want to be too technical about our underwriting and stuff. And if there's not people on the call that don't really understand underwriting and how the underwriting values commercial properties.
Just a little bit ago is when we were doing the introductions. So when we were doing the introductions, the majority of the people on the call have at least 3 or more properties right now. But
Okay,
there
awesome.
will be other people listening because the recording is going to go out to the rest of the group. So there could be other people listening that might be beginners or even higher amounts of properties. But I would just go with, you know, what you're thinking. And
So are we talking the majority of people own like just 3 single family residences? Or are we talking about people that own 300 unit apartment
yeah,
complexes?
they're mostly single family resident. Well, and I wouldn't say single families. Like for instance, there's duplexes, but they're mostly residential. How about that?
That's
Duplexes,
cool.
triplexes,
Yep.
some people house hack. There's some people that rent out by the room, but it's all residential.
All right, gotcha.
Anybody correct me if I'm wrong.
And
So
and I will tell you that that was exactly owning those type of single family residences and even duplexes was where I started years and years and years ago. And it wasn't until I got basically this obsessive nature over commercial real estate and cash flowing properties. Now, I thought stepping into it, I thought, man, how hard could it be, right? Because this is just the same thing I've been doing, but on a bigger scale. And the thing is, and I'm going to tell anybody that's in here listening right now, I don't care if you have 1, 2, 3 rental houses, right? The fact of the matter is that any of you can go out and buy a 100-unit apartment complex. And there's some things that go along with that. But the thing is that it's just as much of a headache to have a 100-unit apartment complex as it is, say, 5, 7, 9, 10 single family unit homes, or even duplexes that are kind of maybe scattered around a certain geographical area. Now, where I started off was jumping into raising private equity, raising private capital in the real estate syndication space. And for those of you that don't know, real estate syndication is basically like a term for, say, going and buying a 100-unit apartment complex at 123 Main Street, putting it into an LLC, and basically selling shares of that LLC off to accredited investors in our case. But you can do, and you're falling under an SEC code that allows you to, if you're doing one code, which is 506B, you can have unaccredited investors that are, they call that the friends and family, but you have to have a pre-existing relationship with those potential investors. Or you can do what's called a 506C, which means you can advertise, you can't advertise a 506B, but on a 506C, you can advertise it to, you can buy a football stadium if you want, name it your real estate syndication. You can advertise anywhere you want, but you cannot bring anybody into the deal that is not an accredited investor. And for those of you who don't know what an accredited investor is, you can go just Google that online, Investopedia or something like that, and it'll tell you what an accredited investor is. It's a far more sophisticated, somebody that's basically very that has wealth and understands and could stand the risk of losing it all if they lost everything they invested in your deal. It's not the end of their world. They're still gonna be able to buy food, right? So you go out and you raise private equity, and you can go in and you can take down some of these larger apartment complexes. And the Jobs Act created, I think it was back in 2013 was when the Jobs Act created this whole, what we call now the real estate syndication space. And so it wasn't until probably 4 or 5 years ago when I really started understanding or trying to figure out what underwriting a property meant, because up to that point, all I knew or understood was underwriting was what the banks did when they wanted to loan me money, right? They come and they underwrite the property. Well, basically it's you doing the same thing, only you're trying to see if the property is worth your investment of your time and being able to sell this to other people to bring them into the investment with you. So when you start underwriting these things, and the the one thing that Joe Fairless, who I talk to every once in a while, he's a guy that's really big in this space, and he told us a long time ago. He said, you know, the cap rate is basically what determines the value of commercial property, and that was another thing that really, when I came into this and I started up until the point when I got into it, I had always dealt with, oh, we brought our babies home to this house. We love this home. We do, you know, and I tell you what, that is, it just absolutely makes me sick to think if I had to go out and show houses again, or even sell somebody's house, because it just, there's so many emotions tied to that stuff, and ever working through that emotion to get a deal done is atrocious. So when you start dealing in the commercial space, these people are like strictly numbers. Like they don't care. They don't care if it's green, yellow, red, gold. They don't care. It's numbers. It's all about a return. And that's basically the long and the short of it. There's no emotions involved. They don't want you to lose their money, obviously, but it's strictly business, which that was huge to me when I first started kind of crawling into it. I was like, man, these people are cutthroat, but you know what? They don't care. They just want the dollars to line up. And so when you start underwriting these things, the cap rate, which was a term that I had always heard, especially being in the real estate business, a cap rate, everybody talks about cap rate, but the cap rate effectively dictates how much a property is worth. It dictates the value that property carries. And of course, your cap rate is your net operating income, right? Divided by, hang on, NOI divided by, well, it would be, well, you'd figure it you figure what cap rate you want multiplied by your NOI. And then I guess that gives you the value of the asset, right? So again, all you're doing with these rising interest rates is decreasing the profitability of some of these multifamily apartment complexes, or any commercial property for that matter. And you're having to squeeze that into your underwriting and making your underwriting resemble what type of a return you want for yourself or for your investors. And that's kind of where it goes. So with that being said, I know that's probably a massive amount of confusion, a lot of information, but when you start graduating from owning 2, 3, 4, 5 rental houses that are single family, that have some geographic distance between them, you know, start huddling your money up and bringing other people into these deals, and go out and start taking down some 8, 10, 12, maybe 16 unit complex or whatever, you know, depending on the city you're in, and start using some of these principles where go out and raise investment funds. It's really simple. Go to the bank and say, hey, we got an LLC the property's going into, we got our 20% down payment. Will you loan us the balance? Now, it doesn't look quite as good as it did at 3% or 4% interest. Doesn't look quite as good now, but it's still doable. Is that clear as mud? Let's see if I can. I'm trying to see how many people we had, but so and what you try to do is you try to where the cash flow comes into it is you're trying to keep all of your expenses out, right? And you're doing this 2 or 3 times, and then you're benefiting from your slice of the pie 2 or 3 times, and you can really make some good money doing it. Is there any real estate agents in the crowd?
So both Rick and I are brokers, and we actually own our own real estate brokerage, but also Julie is a real estate agent, I believe. Anyone else on the call tonight? There's other people that aren't on the call that are members, but
Sure.
anyone else on the call tonight, agents?
Yes, I'm also an agent as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, learning about some of these underwriting principles from an agent standpoint, and what affect interest rates, and I'm specifically talking about interest rates because that seems to be the topic of the the month, I guess, right? Understanding where these interest rates fit in and what they're specifically doing to the value of real estate. And it will help you when if you go and you're like, you call somebody up, or you're doing your cold calling, or you're dialing for dollars, or you're driving for dollars, or whatever you do, and you come across a commercial property, you can help some of these owners determine what the value of their property is based on some of these principles of saying, you take all of your operating expenses. Well, now your interest rate has gone up, so the value of your property's gone down, right? And it can help you. It can help you in the discussion of leading with a little bit of value and saying, "Hey, Mr. Property owner, I will help you. I'd love to show you my underwriting model, so that we can help you figure out what the true value that you have here is." And I'm telling you, from anybody that's involved in the space, and I'm sure. Sorry, I just muted that. Anna, I know that with you and Rick being in the real estate brokerage business too, you have a firm understanding, I'm sure, that these sellers are still way up here, right? And
Yeah, it's the same. I've actually been in the business since 2004, and it's the same thing that happened previously. And they have to learn that they have to get ahead of it, not 2 steps behind and things, or they end up losing out. And it takes a while, just like when you have a buyer who is in a multi-offer situation or something like that. It's the same thing. It takes them a few times losing out before they get that they have to act quicker or something.
Yep. Yep.
So.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you, and then all we're left with today is the only people that are moving right now, or are people that have to move, right? Like, there's the whole move up game, and the whole, I'm going to sell my smaller house to go buy a bigger house. All that's been put on hold, right? Because now they could afford that bigger, better, nicer, better house 6 months ago. They can't quite afford it as much today as they could have back then. And so I think we have, and every time, like I'm only 41 years old. So I have to say every time, like, I've been through these cycles before, but it always seems like as it comes around, and correct me if I'm wrong, but interest rates weren't the problem necessarily last go around, right? Weren't they? Wasn't it the fact that they had overlended quite a bit, even
Right.
at
Well,
the
there was
lower interest
adjustable rate
rates?
mortgages. So I guess you could call it interest rates, because the big problem were the adjustable rate mortgages and the fact that no doc loans and things like that. Like, there was a lot of lending practices that weren't completely legitimate. And so it was a completely different market, but then there are some things that are similar with, like, what you were talking about, attitudes of sellers and things. But the idea is we don't have the foreclosures. We don't have the supply right now. And
Yep.
that's why the prices aren't really going down. But, you also don't have as much demand either, because the interest rates are high. So that's why, it's kind of goofy, but real estate's always different.
That's why I said in the beginning, it's always something different. It's hardly ever the same. The one thing that I just a little bit personally about myself. I went through a divorce several years ago. Say several years, probably been 7 or 8 years ago now. And at the time I had, I don't know, 20 something rental houses, individual rental properties, right? Part of the settlement of the divorce called for basically me vacating my ownership of all of that. And it's sad, but I was, 34 or 5 years old, basically having to start over, which so many people have done. I'm not necessarily complaining about it, but it really like snapped my head around as to the importance of cash flow, because I was going down the road 9,000 miles an hour with 15, 16, 17, $18,000 a month in cash coming in. Now, not keeping all of that, but you know, saying keeping even 40%, 50% of it after payments and all that stuff. So keeping all of that to zero. And I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a battle back, because once that cash flow is gone, midlife, trying to raise kids, trying to keep all these other pieces of the puzzle moving around, it really opened my eye to saying, hey, can you reach out and offer some of these, offer what you know about cash flow, and the understanding and the real world example that I have of it, and the real world experience that I have of it. And then once I started figuring that out, that was when I stepped in. I was like, okay, how are, because I'm not a special guy. Like I drive a 5-year-old truck. I've got kids. We have all of these life things going on. And I was looking at some of these real estate conferences, and I'm like, that guy's just like me. That guy's just like me. Not quite as good looking, but he's just like me. And and those kind of things. And I'm like, these people own like 6, 7, 800 units. And I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not? And that was when I really started digging in and saying, this whole real estate syndication game, it's really made it where the average people can come in and be a part of some of these bigger deals. And you can go in and only be a part of one deal if you want, right? You can only be part ownership of one deal if you want to be. You can be part ownership of 20 deals if you want. But it's really kind of changed the whole face of this, because we have started taking some of these bigger properties back from Wall Street. Okay. We're taking them back from Wall Street, and we're putting them in the ownership of those of us that are boots on the ground in some of these cities, in some of these locations. And the thing is that you can do it just like anybody else can. And if you don't believe me, try it. And the other side of that, on the other token, the real estate agent side of me is saying, if you don't necessarily feel like owning that kind of stuff is for you, go out and sell one. How would you like to get a commission on a $3 or $4 million or $10 million apartment complex? I mean, don't get me wrong, the people that own those aren't going to be like, oh my God, here's 6%, here it is. But even if you make a 2% on a $10 million deal, you're doing pretty dang good.
Right. Totally.
So
That's definitely nice.
with that, I hate to run. I got to get back to the baseball game, but I want you to check out my my podcast, CashFlow Pro. I typically just give out my email address is Casey, that's CASEY at 3000 capital.com.
I'll put it in the chat too.
Yeah, that way anybody that wants to reach out, wants to learn, wants to talk, wants to bounce an idea off, I'm more than happy to sit and chat. And I don't bring things to sell to these meetings. I do these all the time, probably at least once a week. I just don't feel like I want to come in and give some information, give a real world perspective, but I just don't bring things to sell to these things. I don't bring a class or anything like that. What I do bring is that if you ever want to be involved in the deal, or you ever want to look at a deal, let us know. You're welcome to email us and just say, hey, I wouldn't mind some information on your next deal or something like that. We'll be glad to bring you up to speed on any of that and get you the slide decks and whatever we can do to help from that perspective. But if I had to go around and teach people how to do this stuff, I don't know that I would make it very long. I'm just not a good teacher, but yeah, so thank you all, Anna and Rick, for having me. I mean, it's been a pleasure. And Rick, I'm a little enthralled, and we're gonna have to talk about this a little later on, but about it just seems like somebody was standing in front of a map and threw darts and was like, hey, I think we're going to sell real estate in Virginia. And hey, we're going to sell real estate in Florida. I'm like, what's going on here? That's like that's two of the most random things.
Well, so
Like they don't even,
yes,
that's two different languages.
I know, I totally, Florida man. I've become Florida man when I'm here.
So we were in Virginia, but I mean, we've been doing real estate in Virginia for 20 years, right? And
Yeah.
we've had our brokerage for 10 years. And what happened is Rick's parents, who live in Fort Myers Beach, they're 79 and 89. And so they're older, they're doing fine, but we had the most versatile job to be able to help them if needed.
Sure.
Because we've got a great team in Virginia. They're an awesome team. And, but of course we can't start to go someplace without investing in it. So, so I got my brokerage
So
license.
Rick, you got to move to Florida? Rick got to move to Florida?
Well, we
No.
go back and forth, but yes. So
I
we're
feel
married.
sorry for y'all.
Yeah.
Ah,
No, and
Phil.
you know, the other thing, Anna was born in Florida. That's what
Yeah.
she's a Florida girl. And I think she's allergic to the cold.
Yes.
And
Hey.
so
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. My dad used to say that he was allergic to the cold. He said, the older I get, the more allergic I get to it. And I'm like, whatever, old man. And now I'm getting a little older every year, and it's like, all right, so how those beaches are sounding pretty good. So, but I tell you, that's one area that you want to look back through economic cycles.
well, it's a
Man,
roller
I tell you
coaster.
what, Florida and their multifamily space has just been on fire for like 24 or 36 months straight now. I mean, like, it just like, I'm like, how many more people are going to move to Florida? They just keep going. So,
Hey, Casey,
Now
can I
the
ask you a
baby
question?
boomers.
sure.
You had mentioned different rates for realtors as the price point goes up. Do you have a threshold where you start to feel like you should negotiate that, or do you always hold to, you know, a good rate for them to incentivize them?
You know, from that perspective, that's almost like a deal by deal scenario, because you certainly do have some sellers that understand the value of having a relationship with an agent or a broker in a certain area. And they value that relationship enough to not be like, I heard Rick use the term, give somebody a haircut. You have some people that value that relationship enough to not want to give you a haircut on your rate. But then you also have some people where you're like, dang, man, I mean, this is like a $6 million deal, even 2%, you know, I mean, that goes a long way towards putting gas in the car, you know what I mean? So to answer your question, no, I really don't have a framework for that. It's more of an ability to read into what your seller is telling you. You know, if they're going to take and it also depends on when you start looking at whether or not, if you've got somebody that, back to that term again, if you got somebody that's getting ready to take a bad haircut on a deal and they're just like you hear them at dry heaving in the bathroom in between paperwork because they're getting ready to take a heck of a loss, you know, sometimes you might have to be more understanding about reducing your rate, because we're kind of like the car salesman. They don't care if we make money necessarily at that point, but when things are good, people are a little more giving.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Certainly. Well, I'm going to leave the Zoom meeting with you all. Anna, thanks for and I apologize about missing the last one. I don't even know. I don't even remember what my excuse was, but it wasn't good enough to just up and miss something like that. So I'm sorry, but yes, please reach out. I'm just a regular guy that's willing to answer questions or help however I can. We're going to just keep rolling here, and if you all need anything, please reach out.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And so thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Casey.
Casey, for joining us.
Certainly.
And we're going to stay on and answer any questions too, just in case from Casey's talk. So thank
Sure.
you so much. And I hope things work out with your son.
Yeah, I hope
have
we get
fun
a
at the
win
game.
here. So thank you all from Kentucky. Good night. If anybody needs anything, please reach out.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so does anyone else have any other questions from his talk?
Were there any big ahas?
That's a good question, yeah. Anybody?
I think I like how he mentioned taking like a syndication, taking something back from Wall Street. I just really want to, I wonder what the data is on that, on how many like big commercial properties that, you know, within that certain cap rate that syndications have taken over from potential Wall Street investors. I think that that would be really interesting data to gather.
That is interesting. I could actually ask him the question too. And I can put that out to the group. So the question was, how many rentals have been taken back from Wall Street by syndicators?
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
Okay, all right, I'll ask him and see if he kind of knows or where to find the information. So
Yeah, I think that'd
Right.
be just really good data to look at.
You
anyone
know,
else have any ahas or anything to add?
I just want to throw out some conversation points just because I have heard podcasts about, you know, Wall Street coming in and buying, you know, at first it was single family homes and now they're buying communities, you know, now they're building their own communities. And I've heard like there's like 3 or 4 big players in that space doing it. And you know, I also feel like I'm kind of like a very small fish in a very big pond. And the market that we've been playing in hasn't been, we've heard of our investor colleagues being impacted by Wall Street, but I have not seen that in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I will say that. And I haven't seen it in Sarasota County or Charlotte County. And so anyway, it's just
But
those
maybe, Rick, let me ask. So Jessica has actually been in Miami. We're just new to that area. Like I said, we just closed on our triplex a couple weeks ago. Jessica, have you seen that happening in the South Florida area or?
Happening, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Well, like actual like Wall Street buying rentals in big chunks.
So in the beginning, when the whole pandemic came in, I did see a lot of institutional buyers come in and actually like outbid, you know, like the whole year, like 2021. I mean, prices obviously, you know, were out the roof and people were overbidding. But I also saw a lot of institutional buyers coming in and almost literally paying market value. And now I don't really see that so much, but there is a lot of development in multifamily here in South Florida. When I say South Florida, I'm like referring to Miami and also in Broward County. A lot of development, and I always say like one thing, whenever there's like a you know land, I always feel like it's either they have a project, whether they're building like let's say a small shopping center, or they're building like an apartment complex. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Rick, did you want to comment any more on that or have anything else to add or?
Well, again, I go back to, the only thing I want to say is I'm, you know, with interest rates being so high, it seems like we've taken a big chunk of buyers out of the market. And with inventory being so low, the people that can buy a home, you know, they quickly get, I've heard multiple offers, multiple bids coming in. And then you layer in Wall Street coming in. They don't seem to be stopping or slowing down. They see the wealth. We've seen it. I mean, we've done well. We didn't expect, honestly, Anna, you and I, we didn't expect it to be this amazing. We were in it for slow grow, just slow grow. That's all we were in it. And so I know I'm rambling, but I will say that if Wall Street sees the benefit, and truly we've seen the benefit, more people have come into this space. You've got the new people that are trying to get a foothold, and it just takes one home. And all of a sudden, we had one home, then we got another one, and we got another one. And it didn't happen rapid fire. It was one a year, but I just see that, if Wall Street sees the benefit in it, then more people are starting to turn their eyes towards it, is I guess what I'm trying to say, whether it be multifamily or even single family.
Well, and I'm only giving my opinion, but personally, I think it's a safer, more consistent growth rather than the stock market or coin or Bitcoin or something that can be so volatile, but that's only my opinion.
Right.
And I think that's what they're seeing.
Right.
Anybody else have anything else to add? Or questions?
Well, I'll add this, and just for the group discussion. So we just did our taxes like everybody else has done. Our taxes were due. We have a pretty complex return because of the properties that we have. But Anna comes from a great Navy background where she learned systems. So we have great systems in place. But what I've seen over the course of the many years doing this with each property that we add to the mix is principal pay down. So we're getting the tenant to pay anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 to $12,000, depending upon the number of years that we have the term pay down on that mortgage payment towards principal. We have the cash flow that we've earned from them paying more than our expenses, our mortgage, our taxes, insurance, all that stuff. So we have our cash flow that we've earned. And then we have the appreciation that we've gained through the property going up in value, whether it be the craziness of last year or the consistency of 1% to 3% at the, back in 7 years ago. On top of that, the fourth thing that I've seen is we get the depreciation. And with those four things, that's where I'm not so concerned, if, we just bought a home, as you guys know, and we say to ourselves, well, did we overpay? Possibly. But when you factor the other three things, and because we're in it for the long haul, it's truly, for our perspective, just ours and our shoes, not for you guys, but for us, it's been at least a triple play. It'll be a home run in 10 years when we look back. But right now it's at least a triple play. We're the cash flow that we anticipate on getting, the principal pay down that we're going to be getting, the depreciation that we're going to be getting. And then ultimately in 10 years, when we look back and we say, wow, we were really glad we bought this home. Hopefully we'll say that is what we'll be thankful for. So I'll stop talking.
All good, definitely. Will anyone else have anything else to say or any comments?
Speaking of tax season, I do have a very quick question. Because we picked up 2 additional properties this year, one of them being the triplex, so it's just a little bit more income. And we were not expecting to pay the amount that we had to, because we had so much what we thought would be write-offs and deductions and stuff like that. The way our accountant explained it to us, and I just kind of wanted like a second opinion to see if anybody else had dealt with this or if there's a way around it, that it was better for us to take that when we sell the property versus now. So that's I had never heard that
Take
before.
what when you sell the property?
Like some of those deductions and to reduce our capital gains that we would pay.
What?
Yeah, so I
You
was
don't
wondering,
know, so hold on, so let me get a little background.
okay,
Did you sell a property?
no.
Okay, how do you know when you're going to sell this? So did they not give you the deductions for your expenses?
So that was part of my question that I asked to her. And when she did it originally, she only used some of the deductions that we gave to her, not all of them, because she said she was saving some for when we sold to bring down our capital gains. But I was very curious by that. We had her redo it, but
There's a couple different things. So I do have a background in accounting, right? So there's a couple different things that may be going on there. Did she talk about different things, capital improvements versus expenses?
I don't think so. No, but I did have them the way I had my spreadsheet laid out. You could probably differentiate pretty well.
The reason I say that is because by the definition that she gave, she could have been using some and making it a capital improvement over time, and that would adjust the cost basis. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so the cost basis would then adjust the amount of capital gain if you sold it. Maybe that's what she's talking about. No?
Maybe.
But I mean, the thing is and maybe that's what she's talking about is repair, like deductions, like for repairs, supplies, things like that are taken in that year versus capital improvements that might be expensed over a few years.
Yeah. Well, and there was because our MO basically is to move into a place and rehab it. So a lot of the costs and the deductions that we could have claimed, I guess, could definitely fall under that category.
Right.
So maybe that's what she did. It was just helpful to have another opinion because I was like, I've never heard of that before. We've never read about that in books. So just wanted to get a second, like,
well, without knowing all the information, I can't tell you completely, but you do. So what I tell our bookkeeper, right, the person who does all our books, what I pretty much tell her as a rule, you know, if it's under $1,000, we list it as an expense. If it's over $1,000, it could be a capital improvement, but to look further, right? So if you're replacing a roof, if you're replacing something, if you're replacing flooring, if you're replacing a roof, if you're replacing walls, whatever, then that's a capital improvement. But if you are, you know, and actually even like, for instance, you can have, if you're buying, I don't know, are you furnishing these? Is this where you furnish it?
Our Airbnb, we do furnish, but everything else is long-term rental. So no.
So depending on, okay, well, I just say with the Airbnb. So the thing is depending on how the accountant categorizes it, furniture could also be depreciated over time and expensed over time. It may not be all in 1 year. So it depends on how the accountant does it.
Okay.
You know, so those different things, and that's kind of what I tell the bookkeeper to look at is, you know, if it's over $1,000, it could be a capital improvement. You know.
Okay, that's good information. Because I did schedule a follow-up phone call with her just after tax season because I wanted just a little bit more information and to also kind of strategize for this coming year. Because I was like, I do not want to be that unprepared again to pay a very high tax bill. So.
Well, and the other thing though is if you bought 2 properties and didn't sell any, most of the time when you buy a property, there's a loss the first year because of the things you're doing to it. But I also don't know how your setup is. Are you flipping? It doesn't look like you're flipping.
No, we're not flipping. We both also just work W-2 jobs, and then I have additional 1099 income plus all of our rental income.
Gotcha.
So I think it threw us into a higher bracket than we were anticipating. Right. And we just assumed that a lot of our deductions would bring us out of that bracket, which come to find out was a lie.
Something we do, Jackie, and I don't know if you want to do this or not, right? But something we do is we actually pay extra tax on our W-2 income. So we don't have to pay as much at the end of the year.
Yeah, we've decided to make that change very quickly after
It's
after this
less
past weekend.
painful.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to write any more checks like that. So I
Right.
think that we'll probably just make that adjustment.
Right. It's less painful over time rather than making that big chunk. It's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. But thank you for that. That was really helpful because I'm sure that's what was happening. But I am just going to follow up with her
I
just to double check. And then that's good because that's good information and a good tip going forward because I do our bookkeeping. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind.
How do you do your books? Are you using QuickBooks or are you using Wave?
Nope. I enter everything into an Excel spreadsheet and then we scan it. I kind of created, well, and my husband is very helpful with that as well because he does a lot of the formula for me and like drafting of that. So we keep everything pretty tight in there. And then we scan all of our receipts in just into OneDrive and pay for extra storage. So
there is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Wave accounting, but it is free. It's kind of like a free QuickBooks.
Oh, really?
Maybe you want to check into it. Yeah.
And Wave Apps.
What?
It's called waveapps.com.
Waveapps.apps.com. But if you just Googled Wave accounting, it looks like a little ghost. I don't know. But the thing with that though is if you ever need, like if you're buying a property, whatever, and you never need profit and losses, or you need income statements, or you need reports, you can get it through that a whole lot easier than going to your spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah. And that was my fear with QuickBooks because I've used QuickBooks before. My mom owns a car lot. I used to keep her books, backstory there. And we had, I just had some difficulty like pulling data off of it. So that's what kind of like drew me away. And also Excel is free.
Expensive.
I'll check. It's very expensive. I
think
for what we use it for.
QuickBooks is designed more to be accountant friendly with debits and credits.
That's true.
Yeah.
Where Wave is more designed to be like, okay, I have expenses and that type of thing.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you so much. Because that would, especially, coming towards the end of this month, I'll be able to enter everything in and just see if I like the way it looks and if it's user friendly for me.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think the other thing that we've had some pretty, Anna, do you remember that time we rented that timeshare? We were trying to reconcile our books. It was the first year, how stressful it was.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, that was a very long time ago. Very long time ago. But it was very stressful. We had all the receipts because we weren't doing it as we had it all spread out in this timeshare in Florida. So what we did was we typically took off between Christmas and New Year's and we got a timeshare. And so we were going to use this slow time to work on our taxes. And it was so stressful because we didn't have any of the systems, and it was just, we didn't have anything scanned.
Definitely need to develop systems like you're doing, and definitely we started that was quite a while ago.
It was at the very beginning. This is baby Rick and baby Anna, and
that's fun.
Isn't
that good?
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was not good. It was the gray hair from that experience.
You remember, I think I have a picture of the cat probably the week after the timeshare thing, and we have these piles of papers, and our cat was like laying on the different
top of the papers. Yeah, that's
gosh, that's funny.
And don't do that. That is not a system. The one that your cat steps on, that's not it.
No deal. No.
Right. No, we're very more disciplined. Just to give maybe a little bit of more peek behind the tent, we have a bookkeeper and she's employed full-time. She works on our business, she works on the company's business. As bills come in, we are very prompt. We pay within 3 to 5 days. If there's
He's talking about vendors for the property management company.
Vendors, we pay them very, very quickly. We want the reputation for them to do great work and always come back to us first. And for now, because we do have the ability to hire a bookkeeper, and she is not in our office, we have to scan everything. So everything is put on the cloud. everything is put on based on a property. So it's a very, I mean, you know, you look back in our roots where we started, and this is where you grow. No, you grow from these trial, you know, like the experience you just had with your accountant. You're like, I never want to go through that again. I never want to write that big of a check.
Yeah.
And it's like, you learn from those experiences and you get better. You get 100% better, and you'll learn from this. So I'm sure, you know, you're licking your wounds. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of money to say, but yeah, you'll grow from it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were thinking. Actually, we're like, well, how can we make this not hurt so much next year? Especially after we had to pay for a significant amount of tree work to be done on one of the properties. So it's just like double whammy.
Yeah, and that's
Tree work
likely
is
a capital
expensive.
improvement.
Yes, yeah, definitely capital improvement.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly. All right. Well, any other questions? We're happy to help. Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time to call it a night. And even if after, when we're not on the meetings, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to call, text, or email. We're always available. So,
Always.
but
Thank you, guys.
yes, definitely. Thank you. And I hope, also the networking meeting, just to let you know, the in-person networking meeting in Virginia is next week. That's next Thursday, and I'll be sending out the reminder too, to do that. That's at Wegmans from 6 to 8. Okay. All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Thank you guys.